I don't want to make religion a cultural thing in the United States. By the way, are we up with the sound? All right, a cultural thing. Even though things do change, I was told a year ago. Was told me by a highlight. He said, "Oh well, the little church taught the big church something." And basically, oh, you mean, I didn't say this to the fellow, you mean you finally cut out all that nonsense. And that the big church just stopped it all. Just finally stopped it, and they patterned themselves after our church. It's because a lot of this stuff goes on. I don't know where it comes from. But it didn't come out of the Bible. And so on. Now today, we are going to preach on indirectly what's going on in our country. We're banking on I'm banking on the rapture. I'm always banking on the rapture, that we're out of here. This is a very long sermon. It is a series. I call it The Terrorist. Right, those that are parading around the country are terrorists. It was patterned after 9/11. Now, and I was going to, today I decided that I might I'll give my vision today. I had a vision when I was in school before we started the church, and one of my instructors was a pastor in Bedford. And that all went south in a way that was just mind-boggling. I won't say how it happened. It was just unbelievable. It's got its fourth pastor. And I said, well, my vision is to start a church. I was going to school. We wanted to start a church. We started in the house. We ended up in the hut. We called that the hut, and now we have this. And I said, I want to start a church in Bedford. He laughed. He laughed out. He pastored here. I think he pastored 10 years here. And he said, good luck. You'll be lucky to get 20 people in Bedford. You won't get 20 people. All right, that spiritually, it could be what is here. This part of the United States, it's ranked third for witchcraft in the country. It's ranked third. Now who does this ranking? CNN, Fox News. Who comes up with these numbers? It's ranked third. The FBI? I don't know. I could show you where there's pentagrams, murders, and so on. That's what they say, but it's neither here nor there. But God's going to own all this, and so on. Now, sometimes I say things that you don't understand, because my wife and I have come from another era, and I grew up with a man that came from two eras before your era. I talked about this. I talked about this in Sunday school, about how these terrorists travel around. Listen, 55 years ago, there were vacancies at Kent with all the old ladies in their duplexes and all. Well, 2 weeks before the shooting, there were no vacancies. They're flooded in from all over. This is a profession. They're rabble-rousers. It is a profession. This is nothing new. They're talking like this is a surprising new thing that's, well, it may be surprising and new to you, but it isn't, and all the Frisbee throwers, but it's not surprising and new to me. They were around when I was in college. We ripped it down right in front of them all. We dumped it me and another guy in the trash, and the president was sounding off. He ended up at Ohio State. These people they're perverted back then. Perverted. My wife and I come from an era where now Paul can probably vouch for this. He's old enough. Some of us are old enough. There was no sealed food. When you buy your milk, it's sealed. When you buy your cream, You buy anything. You buy your baby Sugar Ray Baby Ray, and you're squirting that in your hamburger. That's all sealed. We don't need any of that today. We come from an era where that wasn't so. So if Halloween hits, now they're hypodermic needling it in there, some witch, and now it becomes a fad. Now it's everywhere. It didn't exist 100 years ago. You didn't have to worry about it. None of this was laced. And now it's all laced. You and I have to end up paying for all that. It's just another thing that has to be done. We come from a different era. Her and I come from an era where her parents, friends, they didn't own a phone. You say, well, I saw Little House on the Prairie. It was 1873, and they had a phone. And we still come from an era where there were no phones. No phones. You say, I don't believe that. If the guy wanted a date, he had to go to the drugstore, put the nickel in there, and dial it up to say, honey, do you want a sandwich? And we'll go to a quarter movie. We come from that era, so we sometimes think that way. Sometimes we think that way. My dad said that farms started on 80th Street. Now, it's downtown Manhattan from Connecticut to Jersey, all the way up the coast, all the way into Manhattan. It's wall. It's 80th Street was farms. This is another era. And the gangsters had put 70 ice pick wounds and they dump them in the canal and they call in Elliot Ness. This is another era. And so things come and go. This is Cleveland. By the way, Cleveland is the hub for industry in America. You may not know that. John D. Rockefeller was here. And before that, all of automotive was here. Things do change. Things change. And we have short memories. Now this might be a long intro. But if a very famous preacher, probably in the top 1,000, I believe he goes to Princeton. He's probably the only one in church that can read and write. He's highly educated, very, very educated. He's pastoring probably one of, if not the biggest church in not America, because America didn't exist, in the colonies. And at the time, the colonies, now I knew the story of this guy. The colonies had 1.5 million people that lived from Maine to Florida. There's only 1.5 million people. Now, what's a big church? It's probably the biggest church. Through nepotism and through his education, he inherits, or the privilege through that, to pastor his grandfather's church. So he pastors his grandfather's church. He pastored for 10 years. It's utter chaos. Utter chaos. The bulk of the church. I hope you're not on your phone. I'm sick and tired of tic-tac-toe. The bulk of the church is his family. Almost the entire church. We're talking 300 years ago. It's really, Pastor, it's 275 years ago. All right, 275 years ago. The bulk of the church is his family. His family cannot stop fighting. He pastors that mess for 10 years. He says that we had good years. The wife and I have had good years here, good years, and we've had bad years. Good years and bad years. We've had a bad year, now a good year. We have had a good year, we have a bad year. And so he can't control it. He then decides, you know what, I'm just coming in to preach. All he does is preach. He doesn't intervene. It's nothing new. None of this is new. It basically says in this thing, no one's paying attention. No one cares. They can't wait till it's over so that they can go and do whatever it is they're going to do, take care of their cattle, raise whatever it is, corn or whatever they're doing. But no one cares, no one's excited, no one's paying attention. Basically, it's just standard fare. The missionary book that I don't know if they were Methodists. The three of them get converted. They get converted in the boat and become Baptists. In the boat. The guy says, I preached the best sermon ever, and he said no one paid attention, no one moved left, right, up, down, no one cares. They just go right about their business. It's 10 years of this. What I'm trying to say is there's nothing new under the sun. So he decides, well, nobody here's even saved. We're talking hundreds of people that nobody in this church is even saved. He decides, all the sermons I read from 200, 300, 400 years ago, they preach that everybody's lost. So he said, well, this is his family now. Well, no one is even saved. So to make a requirement, now you got to remember, all roads lead to Rome. I don't know if they're Episcopalian, I don't know what they are. Presbyterian, I don't know what the church is. So he says, well, if you're going to receive communion, we're going to make it a requirement that you've got to have a profession of faith. You've got to show some signs that you're saved, a profession of faith. If you're 4 years old, I expect that 4-year-old to act like a 4-year-old. If you're 40 years old, but you're only 4 years old in the Lord, then I expect, as far as a Christian, you should probably act like a 4-year-old. But if you're 40 years old in the Lord and you're acting like a 40-year-old, if there's a 40-year-old person, they act like a 4-year-old, we call that retarded. And we've sat under preachers that said, well, they're spiritually retarded. So there's got to be a profession of faith. You know what they did? They marched him right out of there. They fired, probably on the tip of your tongue, the most famous preacher ever. They fired the guy. He doesn't know what to do. He decides, well, I'll take up I'll take up missions. And that's another topic. A preacher saying, get all the American missionaries, get them out of here. Support them and get them out of the country. The best thing is just to get them out of here. Another one of our missionaries say, we need to preach them out of there because of what's going on. We know what's going on. So, and we'll get to the vision. And so they march him out of that. They fire him. So, well, all right. He hears of a mission, Indian mission. I'll minister to Indians. They have a school. Will minister. He goes 300, 400 miles west. And so his family chased him right out there. They trotted right out there and gave him a hard time out there. Finally, his sisters, these are all big families, 10, 11 kids. A couple of sisters go out there because the French Indian War went on for 100 years plus. Now the uprising is really going on. A couple of sisters went out there and they said, man, you're going to lose your hair. And they persuaded him. They said, you better get out of here before you lose your scalp. And so they marched him back. I believe he becomes the chancellor of Princeton. And so now he becomes the chancellor of Princeton. And now he's persuaded to take the Fauci jab. Well, Fauci? You mean Fauci was? Yeah, these doctors are back there then. And I'm not saying he shouldn't have got it. He got the jab for smallpox. Now, there's a term for that. He died from that. I always thought he died of smallpox. He didn't die of smallpox. He died from getting the vaccination. Within a week or two, he was deader than a hammer. And so his life ended in his 50s. It's Jonathan Edwards. But I'm telling you this, that this stuff still goes on today. And it just bugs me. It bugs me to no end. To the point where this is it. Bugs me to no end. Oh, by the way, once they marched him out of there, it was a great motivator to write sinners in the hands of an angry God. So that's when he writes it, because, man, you're damned. He's so frustrated with it all. He writes sinners in the hand of an angry God. And we try to make it plain and simple. Now, we've never filled the church, but near filled. This is what frustrates me, and we'll get to the vision, we're going to start preaching. This is what frustrates me. A guy says to me, I can't drive. I need you to drive me to the doctor. He's my age. We're 52, whatever it is. This is how Christians listen. I said, well, I'll take you to the doctor. I'm free today. I take him to the doctor. We're sitting there in the waiting room. We're sitting there, and he's got his appointment. He's going to go see the doctor. And there's mothers there, and there's children there. And this guy says, come here, little boy. Come here, little girl. Now, are you a mother? Did that alarm you? Here's some candy. And he's starting to pass out candy to all the little children. Now, I don't know about you, but that alarms me. That alarms me. And he's sitting here. He's not here now, but he's sitting here. And this is the mainstay in the whole crowd. He's sitting here. Well, here's some candy. Now, he's giving away candy to all the children, and I'm thinking, mothers, what are you doing? I don't know what you're doing. Now, if my wife passes out cookies to her grandchildren, that's one thing. Now, I get to the question, if she's passing out to other kids in the church, well, all right. Now, if Grandpa is doing it, I don't pass it out to the kids. I say, kids, it's in the cookie jar. I go there. Listen, we're taught by my mother is you watch out for your uncles. She had to watch out for her uncles. So I say to the guy, this is how they listen to the preaching. Well, where's that verse? The verse isn't in here. I'm saying to listen. I lean over and I say to the guy, now listen, you've got to stop that. They're going to think you're, and I say the P word, they're going to think you're that. You need to stop that. That it's wrong, that you're passing out children, just strange children you don't know, and they're going to think you're one of these people. So the next influx of two women come in with their children. You know what he does? He did exactly what I told him not to do. He continues to pass the kid. They have no intention of changing. No intention of changing. That frustrates her and me. That really frustrates us. And so my answer to that, after we got 33 other complaints, was you need to get out of here. Well, they went over there. It's filled with 40 others just like it. It's a nice big church. Yeah, there's 40 more of them just like that. And not just doing that, but all kinds of weird stuff. Shunning children. How can you shun a child? We have full-grown adults that do that. Pastor. All I say is wake up. That's what's going on. And the pastor finally gets, and boy, my pastor would finally, this is at the end, he'd be so upset about it all. And then finally he went right for it. He said, that's why I'm out of here. Whatever that was what he said. Now, there is a song out there. You can log on to it after service. It's sung by the Statler brothers. Now, we got 1, 2, 3 people, maybe 4, that know what I'm going to talk about. The name of the song is Class The class of 57. All right, you know the name, the class of 57. All the dreams. And it all came crashing down. Everybody's got their dreams. And in the end, they just turned out like everybody else. Now, when we were in school, people were given their visions. I said I wanted to pastor a church in Bedford. The preacher said, good luck, man. You'll be lucky to get 20 people there. You'll be lucky to get 20 people. And I said, but we're still going to do it. I'm still going to start it in Bedford. We started in the house, went to the hut, and now we're here. But I've got my vision. My vision isn't the standard fare of false doctrine that you find in the Bible. We're not doing that. Now, there's that building, there's this building, and there's my house. My wife and I, we sit down and we talk about this. We talk it out. My vision is for there to be a perpetual fund. You may call it an endowment. You may call it there's another term for it, a trust. We deal with Jews. I agree for these people. Sometimes they call it a perpetual fund. So, well, Pastor, how is that going to happen? Well, right now we're in a position. This church is in a position to have a perpetual fund that will last till hell freezes over. So that we, not meeting here, I'm out of here. I'm 70, going to be 70, at the age of 79, bye-bye. I'm out of here. I mean, how long is this going to go on? That we have enough for a perpetual fund to support, at least without any help, a billboard from now till doomsday. So that legacy will go on forever. Just like it says God, it said sign God, and was in black on these billboards. This is 30 years ago, if you remember. I don't know who dumped money in that. There was never any identification on any of those billboards. Where we don't identify ourselves now, and we can make it a decreasing thing and let it decrease to the point where it's going to zero out in 3 or 4 or 5 years. You say, well, interest rates are high. You have no idea what you're talking about. We come from an era where interest rates went up to 18%. This is all short-lived. That's called Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter. It was as high as 18%. It's as low as 0. It's at 18. It's now at 5. And just at that, we have enough for a perpetual fund to sustain the billboard. Now, that man, the Z-Man, he's going to go around churches, and we've had some powwows. We're going to have more. That he's going to be and maybe persuasive to get others. We don't care if our name is on it. We'll put up XYZ Baptist Church on. We don't care. They don't even have to give us money because it's a perpetual fund. But if you want to put money in the perpetual fund church, you can do that. Harvard, Yale, Columbia, they have billions of dollars. And right now, those Jewish people need to sue them into oblivion. Sue them into oblivion. And that might happen. Well, you listen to the class of 57. I've just seen it of all the preachers that I know. It's in flames. The one where they just pumped it in front of us, that all of Cleveland will change. All the buildings will be rehabbed. All the buildings, there'll be no empty buildings. All these homeless people are going to be model citizens, and on it went. And I thought, yeah, my dime. But these are the shakers and movers. I tell you, man, that went down in flames. Flames, big time. Are all the empty buildings rehabbed in there? And not one of them. A lot of it is talk. Now, this isn't talk. We have enough to start a perpetual fund. Now, if somebody comes in here and sues me, well, maybe it's bye-bye birdie. I don't know. But we're going to preach on the terrorists. terror. Now, I got another story. Maybe I'll tell it now. It's somewhere in here. I gave an illustration of interest and why savings and loans don't exist today. You say, oh, I know the savings and loans. Okay, go get an ice cream cone. Why they don't exist today. It has everything to do with a converging series or a diverging series. The banker doesn't have to go there. We as engineers are trained, and they tell us after we're trained, you don't have to go there anymore. It's already in the chart and it's in the book. The banker doesn't go there. He opens up his book and says it's 5% at this rate and it's compounded. This is where he goes. He doesn't have to figure out the formulas. We as engineers and as mathematicians, you have to show how do we get there. It's a converging or a diverging series. So this is in our church. In our church. Well, the reason why there's no savings and loans is and I said, well, it's annual, semi-annual, it's monthly, it's weekly, it's daily, it's now continuous. It's continuous interest. That's all baits to get you to put your money in the bank, which is fine. That's how you generate, how you buy Coke. They want to get you to put your money in there. So the guy says, well, you don't find too many that offer continuous interest, because at the end of the week it's $1 million. Now, what company, if you put $1 in the bank, you're going to get $1 million at the end of the week? But that's what I'm dealing with. That's what I'm dealing with. If I can't believe you there, I can't believe your theology either. The difference is math. It's in a converging or a diverging series. I drew a little chart. I drew a little graph. I drew a square. You could divide a square into an infinite number of squares. That's what continuous interest is. There's a finite number. It converges. And the curve goes on to infinity. And you ask me, well, how did I do in the class? Oh, my goodness gracious, I barely got through it. You have to know advanced calculus to know that. And so the curves look the same. One is diverging, the other's converging. I'm not this professor, but you had to be able to do this. But when people are talking to me about that, I'm thinking, it's kind of like the Twin Towers. Well, it's a conspiracy. Do you know what a firestorm is? You know what a chimney is? Well, that's why that came down. And anything short of that, I don't know what's in my dad would say, what's in your pipe? And we're just sick of that. What's in your pipe? It's a firestorm. It's a chimney. And on we go. If I say, in the group, if I say it's a diverging series or a converging series, this is where the conversation ends up in talking about the World Series or the Cavaliers series. We're talking about a mathematical equation. This is what's very when that happens, I just check out. I love to play with my grandkids because I know that's what I expect. That's what I expect. The terrorist, Luke 10, verse 18. I know we have to end this. I can end this sermon anywhere I want. I can end it anywhere I want. I know. Because this is a series. I plan to do the series. The vision, if you want to know and understand the vision, then log on to the Class of 57 Statler Brothers. Just listen to the song. So I have my vision. You could end the vision right now. Right this minute. Just march out and never come back. And then it'll always be just on the brink. And everything will end. I can't force people to come. I can't force people to stay. I have tried to force people to leave. My instructor, he said, you need to preach that guy out of here. You have no idea what's going on, but my. You need to get along and end this pooch. You need to end this poochy living. It needs to stop. Otherwise, they're going to find an encampment of American Indians to go there. It is called 911, the terrorist. Luke 10, verse 18. And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. So we have the world to contend. Father, bless now the preaching. We have the world to contend with. We have our wicked flesh to contend with. But we also have the devil. And he is a terrorist. I beheld Satan as lightning. It's like Barack Hussein Obama. You know, when that came out, do you know what Barack Obama means? Lightning, I think it means lightning from heaven. They named him after Satan. That's what his name means. Satan, he'll go for the weakest link, the woman. But lightning will also hit the highest, whatever the highest is. If we have a perpetual fund and we set it up in Cleveland, we may be the first. We wanted to be the first on the block, on the billboard. We wanted to be the first on the block on Fox 8. We want to be the first on the. We want to be the highest. Not because of pride, because we want to go, as Paul says, where no man has gone, where we want to be truly effective, not where some of our people have gone. I would joke with one of the brothers. These are pastors. I'm joking with the brother. I said it's like playing old maid. I said there's 20,000 of us in Cleveland, and we're changing them off like old maid cards. These are playing cards. And he laughed. He said, yeah, you're right. No one's really getting saved. The only way they get saved is procreation, by having kids. And then trading these people, well, 100 ran over there, and 50 ran over there, 10 ran over there, and on it goes. And we were joking about it. That's how preachers get along when we're having the hamburger. I beheld Satan as lightning. Satan will hit the highest, as he did the Twin Towers. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning, 9/11 on 2001. I asked, where were you? I think everybody here knows where they were if you were alive. It was shocking. Maybe the most shocking thing to happen to America. No words can describe it. Shocking. It was unbelievable, devastating, disastrous, terrifying, unexplainable, horrifying. It was life-changing, sobering, and was saddening, angering. These are just a few words in which to describe all of it. At 9 a.m. on September 11th, 2001, the United States of America was deliberately and aggressively attacked by an unseen enemy. That's what the devil's like. He will attack you. An enemy that hates America, hates Americans, a very religious enemy. In the name of religion, they sought to destroy us. Even though they say, that is, Muslims say, this is what they say, that they're a religion of peace, and it's only the extremists that would carry out such an attack. Those that say that, I don't know what's in your pipe, man, but that's not what's in the Quran. But such is the way of the devil, for he is the father of lies. They were called terrorists, and their weapons, strange they were, not that of traditional weapons. I don't know, is it the Tet Offensive? The Tet Offensive, they went down into Saigon. You can't tell the difference between the North and the South because it's an army that doesn't wear a uniform. It's only the dumb Americans that wear a uniform. And they could pick them out because they're head and shoulders above everybody else. Everybody else is the size of a child. You know what it took to root thin people out of there? I think that's the Tet Offensive. It is rooted in, the devil's rooted in deceit. This whole thing, in that their training and their desire was to fly a plane and not to land a plane, because they had every intention of slamming it into the building. The weapon for taking over the aircraft, it wasn't something that was traditional. It was a box cutter. So small, yet caused all the damage. They used the airplane itself, something that is good, something that was ours, yet used against us. I can never understand selling this stuff to the Russians. They're just going to turn around and shoot it at us. I never could figure that out. The fuel which melted the buildings, having them collapse into a ruinous heap. It's called a fire. It melts marble to the point where that structure will just melt and crumble in on itself. Now, by the time I get to the 1/3 of what I just said in that last sentence, the topic is so changed and interrupted that I don't even want to go there. Now, get this. The submission, this is the protocol. The submission of the pilot and the crew. The passengers to the will, to submit to the will of those that are doing us harm. The protocol is you are to herd to the back and just hold your hands. Well, that's not Israel's protocol. You can't get in the cockpit. They have a separate entrance. You can't get in there. They're smart enough to know that these terrorists are going to kill them. You can't get in the plane. You can't get the back of the plane to the front of the plane. They have a separate door to go in. 911, the terrorists. Yet there is a greater terrorist. There is a greater terrorist than these people. One much greater than these few individuals who terrorized us, 20-some years ago. And that terrorist is the devil. Deceit. Well, he's the father of lies. He's smooth at it. The weapon, such as pride. Use the airplane, using ours against us, like religion. Like religion. Want to know why the wife and I, we don't watch, I think it's The Disciples. Is that a series? What is that? It's on TV. They have this movie and that movie. We purposely don't watch. It's the most, we can't take it. It's the most unbiblical. And to sit there and enjoy it, and it's the most unbiblical. We'll read your Bible and find out what the Bible says. This is the wild imagination of some actor or some movie studio. The fuel. It was the gas or the airplane fuel, the fuel that's used. Burning. And what does the great tempter use? He has us burn with temptation. The submission that too many, they submit to this. They're ignorant, as the Bible says, ignorant of his devices. We are to resist the devil and he will flee from us. And it is unseen. You don't see the devil. Folks, we have people that have visions. Oh, please. I listen. I guess it's for my own entertainment. I guess I get a little entertainment out of it. There's no use in saying anything anymore because they're just going to believe what they do. It's unseen. Al-Qaeda was unseen. You can't see the devil. All right? No man has seen God. God is the part you don't see, right? The power there is the Holy Spirit, and the part you see is Jesus. Well, you don't see Al-Qaeda. He's unseen. He blends right in. They're all turban wearers. They all wear their little turban. The devil works behind the scene. He's unseen. It is an army that has no uniform. There's no uniform there. Satan's army is the same. He doesn't show up with a pitchfork in horns and a split tongue. He'll show up in high heels. Satan is the greatest terrorist that ever lived. Satan, it says, he was a murderer from the beginning. Satan, a king over all the children of pride. Satan, the father of lies. Satan could not compel Adam, but tempted Adam as a suitor to woo them. He knows how to win them over. He's got everything in his little tackle box. Adam was honored above all men, yet man being in honor abideth not. Adam was honored, yet he was cast out of the garden, so he abideth not. So he drove out the man. So what do we learn? The weakness of Adam cost him dearly, cost him his robe of innocency and the glory of paradise. And if a man was weak at his best, then how weak is man now at his worst? If he was weak at his best, how weak are we now? If Adam in a few hours had sinned, he sinned himself out of paradise. How soon do we sin ourselves into hell? Now, if you're saved, you can't go there. But how fast do people sin themselves right in there? If pure human nature could not stand before Satan, how shall our corrupt nature? Oh, the temptation of the serpent. The devil crept into the serpent and spoke in the serpent through him. Oh, the subtlety of Satan. His wiles are worse than his darts. Satan, the great impostor, he ushers in his temptation by a lie. Ye shall not surely die. You know, we say, well, there's, you know, I'll talk, this is when we first get saved. We're talking 40 years ago. Well, there's this denomination, that denomination. Now, I brought this up. He said, well, the reason we have these, well, this is to enhance the Holy Spirit. This one, well, Baptist, it's to enhance soul winning. These are to enhance the ceremony and the liturgy. And I'm thinking, I went from the frying pan into the fire. We jumped out of the frying pan and wandered right up in the fire. Ye shall not surely die. The devil, Satan, was first a liar, then a murderer. And where does he break through, and whom does he set upon? Satan breaks over the hedge where it is the weakest. Where it is the weakest. He sets upon Eve first, the weaker vessel. As an expert soldier storms the castle at its weakest point. Did not the devil attempt the same with Job? Through his own wife, curse God and die. Did he not do the same with Ahab? Ahab, which did sell himself to work wickedness in the sight of the Lord, whom Jezebel his wife stirred up. She blew the coals and made the flames of his sin burn all the greater. We'll be done soon. Like I said, I can stop this sermon anywhere. I can stop it anywhere and pick it right up again. We're not going to go through the stories again. Now, you could have learned from the stories. They're true stories. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Or we could be on our phone right now playing tic-tac-toe. Here's what's happening. You have a phone. It's a tool. You have a camera. That's I insist. I don't want a phone. I don't want a camera. If we lost the meaning of the phone and the meaning of the camera, it no longer means what it was meant to be. If you're working for the FBI, it means something. You're not working for the FBI. It means something different. But the same is true for the Bible. Is these churches have lost the meaning of what the Bible means. The Bible is to train and correct us and encourage us. I call it reverse theology. since they're pure and clean, they've got to find verses. It's so twisted. They make the Bible fit their lifestyle, whatever that is. We've had people, they're the holy crowd. They're holier than everybody. They're holier than, and they're certainly holier than Bethesda Baptist. They're done with their whole series of holy preaching. I met one of the preachers. I shook his hand. I thought to myself, man, it's an odd duck. We gave them a big gift. It's an odd duck. I met his wife. Same day I met his wife. She's on the brink. She can't handle the cooking, the clothes, the kids. She needs a vacation. The girl needs a vacation. I can see the girl needs a vacation. They're done with the holy preaching. All the holy preaching is over. We're holier than Bethesda Baptist. Last amen is given in 2 hours. 2 hours after the last amen. They're in handcuffs and carted away by the FBI and going to prison. This is what's generally going on. We don't want anything like that to happen here. My wife and I talk about it. We want to exit clean. We want a perpetual fund, and that's our goal. Now that goal can change. I am persuadable. But Satan has no love for men. Satan is the great tempter. He is called the tempter. He lies in ambush, and he's always ready for battle. He's not going to get tired. The devil slated to be cast into prison, cast him into the bottomless pit, having bound him for 1,000 years. He is like a future prisoner released on a few. You know what they do? We have a prisoner. We caught him. They post $1 million. Make it high. $1 million bond, and they're out on bail. That's what Satan is. He's posted his bond, and he's out on bail until they're finally going to arrest him and throw him in the bottomless pit. The whole world. Now listen. I didn't make this up. This is only an illustration. This is preached 300-400 years ago. It's only an illustration. It's not saying anything for the Roman Catholics. It's not saying anything against Roman Catholics. We have Christians, the only exercise they get is jumping to conclusions. They didn't. Now listen. The whole world is like a diocese. It's one giant diocese of people. The district, a diocese, is under a bishop's jurisdiction. So the whole world is a diocese, and who's the bishop that's in charge of it? Running it? Satan! It's only an illustration. Isn't he able to change himself into an angel of light? For Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. I think right now we've gone long enough. I will not backtrack and go over this again. We will just pick it up here. And we're going to march forward. But the damage, and we have a march out. Yeah, people march out. March out. The damage that is done on a continuous basis needs to stop. It just needs to stop. And one of the most famous preachers, Jonathan Edwards, he couldn't control it. He was so frustrated. I give up. Is get right with everybody in here. Everybody. Shake hands before leaving.